Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss our topic constitutional bodies, statutory bodies and extra constitutional and non-statutory bodies. This is one of the topic on which every year there are higher probability to get the questions in the mains paper, PubEd paper 2, as well as it will also be helpful for the general studies paper 2, that is polity, constitution and governance portion. And not just this, the understanding of this topic will even be useful for your prelims paper as well. So let us understand this area from the basics. The discussion is about constitutional, statutory and extra constitutional organizations. This entire discussion can be organized on the basis of how these institutions are created and then what are the different type of provisions. So you may have been aware about that some institutions are mentioned under specific article of the Constitution. Some institutions are created by act which is passed by the legislature or our parliament. And then some institutions are created just by the executive order or in other words cabinet resolution. Based upon this, we can classify these organizations broadly into three different types of institution. When we talk about the constitutional bodies or constitutional organization, these are the one which are mentioned under a specific article of the Constitution. And their powers, their functions, their compositions are usually mentioned in the Constitution. Like, for example, you can say the organization Union Public Service Commission. This is mentioned under Article 315. So this article will talk about creation of the institution as well as functions of this agency. And in that context, it is called constitutional body. Apart from this, another example if you use Finance Commission, Article 280, that is also constitutional body. Election Commission of India, Article 324. So that is also a constitutional body. Then National Commission for Scheduled Caste, National Commission for Scheduled Tribes and National Commission for Backward Classes. These are also Article 338, 338A and also 338B. All these institutions are mentioned under specific article of the Constitution. And therefore, these organizations will remain under the meaning of a broader term, constitutional bodies. And that's why these are stronger and powerful organization because their working, their appointment, their removal is largely governed by the constitutional provisions itself. Then another set of organization which are created by act of parliament, and because the act is generally called as statute, therefore the term become statutory organizations or statutory bodies. So from act, an institution is created. Act is also called what? Statute. So as the name, statutory bodies or statutory organizations. And unique characteristic is what? These institutions, that means The statutory bodies they are created by Act of Parliament, and they can also be existing in the states, and when they are existing in the state, so they are created by the state legislature. As a result, think about some examples: National Commission for Women, National Human Rights Commission, Central Information Commission, University Grants Commission. These type of organizations are created by the Act, and uniqueness is their composition, their powers and functions. Everything will be defined in the Act, and that's why they are the second strongest institution after constitutional bodies or organization. And that's why their appointment criteria, their removal criteria, their powers functions criteria, to whom they have to submit their report, these things are generally defined in the Act under which they have been established. Then comes the third set of organization, which are neither mentioned in the constitution nor they are created by the Act, and that's why for them, what is the term we will use? We call them extra constitutional plus non statutory organizations. Think it is coming from the name itself, an institution not mentioned in the constitution, but still it is useful, and that's why this is the term. You may also think it can be unconstitutional. Unconstitutional term you will use for illegal body, a body which is against the constitution. But there are so many things which cannot be mentioned in the constitution, and power is given to the government to make rules, to pass order, and under that these type of institutions are created. And what could be the example for them? Imagine earlier we used to have planning commission. Today this planning commission is replaced by the institution called Niti Aayog. So for this body, only an order of the government or a cabinet resolution was passed, and once this order is passed, so under that order this institution's power, function, composition will be defined, and that's why neither Act was passed nor the institution was mentioned in the constitution, and that's why what they become extra constitutional and non-statutory organization. That's why this planning commission and present day Niti Aayog is one of the best example. Plus you can also find this type of organizations at state level also. In the state, I am giving you an example from NCT of Delhi. Here in the NCT of Delhi, there is a body called Delhi Dialogue and Development Commission. This was created in 2015 by the order of Delhi government, and this will be working just like a Niti Aayog. So this type of organization is also in the category of non-statutory. Non-statutory means no law was passed by the legislature, and extra constitutional because they are not mentioned within the constitutional provisions. That's why this is one of the traditional way to classify an organization into three broad categories. A constitutional body, which is mentioned under article of constitution. Then comes statutory body, which are created by important criteria is act of parliament or state legislature, and through them those institutions are created. Imagine at the state level, if I ask you some example, so state human rights commission, state commission for women, that state means name of the state, Karnataka women commission, Delhi commission for women, they will be in this category. Jammu Kashmir Human Rights Commission will be in this category, and every state also have usually State Information Commission created under the RTI Act, and that's why that can be there. And if the state universities are also there, but usually their overall curriculum and other things will be regulated by the central body, that is UGC, because that is a concurrent subject education, and therefore this single body will be taking care. So these are the small idea you will utilize in order to structure this understanding of constitutional body, statutory body, and extra constitutional body. Plus, one very exceptional thing which you should also remember. This exceptional thing is there can be article of constitution, and then it is mentioned parliament by law may establish. Either parliament by law, otherwise state legislature. State legislature may establish such institution. This is also practically possible. And for this, what you can do, you please remember this question and example 243 ZD. This article talks about district planning committee. So district planning committee has to be established. This is apart from the constitutional article. But to establish this, the state legislature will pass a law, and the state law will define the composition plus function. Composition can consist of elected member plus nominated member and also ex officio member. All these things can be part of the composition scenario, and therefore in this regard the DPC, District Planning Committee, will be considered as a statutory body rather than as a constitutional body. Why? Because its creation, its appointment, its powers, functions are defined under state law rather than it is defined under constitution. And that's why it is mentioned parliament or state legislature by law may do. So if anything done by the parliament or state legislature by law, then such institution will be considered under the meaning of the term statutory body despite having mentioned in the constitution itself. This is the same logic which you also apply for Consolidated Fund of India, which is constitutional fund. But what about Contingency Fund of India? Contingency Fund of India is considered as a statutory fund, is it? So this is just a basic to understand the conceptual side of these bodies, and this will help you to make the notes structure wise, conceptual wise, and keep an eye on all these institutions from the newspaper so that you can incorporate the current affairs also within your notes and can prepare yourself for the prelims and mains simultaneously. Is it? So now we will be moving on to the next part, because each of these institutions we require to cover in detail. So let us begin with now the constitutional bodies.